Their longest unbeaten run against an MLS opponent ended last week, and in the process, a dubious first in franchise history. We're going to review that. It was a difficult night in Atlanta for New York City FC, and then also look ahead to one of the best teams in the West, Minnesota United. That'll be the opponent at Yankee Stadium on Sunday on NYCFC Views Live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Yeah. Time for some sickness. There's Roberto Abramowitz. I'm Glenn Crooks. We should start off with Roberto put something in the chat. Pretty much breaking news. Tylus Magno, who was loaned to Corinthians by New York City earlier in the year. Roberto, why don't you share with us what the next part of this will be?
Well, the next part of this is very simple. They've extended the loan towards all the way to the end of 2025, so we're not going to see Tylus back here. Not that we expected to see Tylus back here, but he's playing well there.
Yeah.
And congratulations to Tylus and congratulations to Corinthians. And then for New York City's sake, we hope that at the end of the loan, Corinthians is even more enthralled and they want to buy him and give New York City a lot of money for him. That's the hope.
Well, it is fantastic that he's doing well there. And Jose Martinez, the former Philadelphia Union midfielder, is with him there too, right? Aren't they playing together?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I find that interesting. And they just won something that was pretty huge. Man, those games, I'll tell you what, man, if you can go down there and compete and play, I think you can play anywhere. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I mean, that is the best league in the Americas. The Brazilian league.
I mean,
like able to invest a lot of money. No, and the
pressure.
The
pressure. I mean, it's enormous.
They're all in.
Yeah,
they're all in. Sadly for them, their national team isn't doing well at all. They got smoked 4-1 by Argentina last week, and they're not a very good team this time around. Don't expect much for them. Just, they're not showing up with their shirts and winning. It's not happening. Yeah. They're just not talented enough.
All right. Well, the New York City Football Club was born in 2015, 2 years before Minnesota United, their opponent this weekend, joined Major League Soccer. But a first in franchise history. It was their first loss after having a 2-goal lead in any game. First loss ever after having a 2-goal lead in a game in the regular season.
Yes, in MLS.
Well, that's what I said.
Well, you added that ever. You said first loss ever, and then you said, in the regular season. So that sort of corrects it. But the fact of the matter,
I
don't care what your notes say. I'm just telling you.
Let's compare my notes with Roberto's, everybody. Let's see. Roberto, where are your notes?
I don't do notes. I don't know. I have some on my phone. I have some. But
no, I have to write. I have to write things out. That's the way my brain works. That's the only way it works.
But I just want to be clear because, yes, it's the first time that's happened to them in MLS, but it's also the second time that's happened to them within a year. Now, the other first time that it happened, which is the first time ever in any sort of competition, was in Cincinnati. And they had a 2-0 lead going to the 79th minute, and then they had a meltdown and lost 4-2. Now, having said that, it was an absolutely meaningless game and didn't really matter much. Both teams advanced in League's Cup and all was good, but that was the first time that ever happened. But this one felt terrible. I mean, I can't even imagine what the players and the coaches and management and everybody who was on the trip felt. But we have a wonderful idea of that. We're going to go to Hannes Wolf right now, Shane. So this was post-game. Now this is right after the game, and I think you get an idea of how
everyone felt just through this, because talking about losing this or scoring 3 goals on the road, come on, and not getting any points. Go ahead.
Difficult to say, to be honest, because I think in the first half, when we conceded the equalizer, the momentum was with them, but we came out of halftime very strong, scored twice, and then we should be able to finish this game and take the 3 points. I don't know. I think maybe we thought we are already through. And then we conceded some goals. But difficult to say, to be honest. If you score 3 goals away, as I said, you should be able to take the points, because how many times you score 3 goals away? But we didn't, and it's very hard to take, to be honest.
So New York City has scored 3 goals away 16 times in their MLS history. Okay, 16, and that was their first loss. Also, when scoring 3 goals on the road, it was 13 wins and 2 draws prior to that. And the other thing, and this is where, and when we talk to, normally we would have Pascal Janssen, some clips with him here on the podcast, but training is tomorrow, or match day -2 is when we get to meet with him, and that's tomorrow since the game's on Sunday. But it's certainly a question to ask him. City's lost 5 points from winning positions now, and only DC United has dropped more, 7. So, these kinds of things add up as the season progresses. So we'll see how they bounce back against a really good team.
This is what I'm looking forward to. It isn't about how you fall. It's about how you get up. And so now they've got to get their act together, and they get to play, as you say, a very, very good team in Minnesota that has won 2 games in a row. But the last time that they were on the road was in Kansas City. And that was a very interesting game, Glenn, because aside from the fact that it was played in semi-miserable conditions, not as bad as the conditions that they played Real Salt Lake in, which was ridiculous. I mean, that was more water polo than it was soccer.
Yeah, last week's game. Yeah,
it was that field was absolutely waterlogged. I'm surprised that they allowed the game to continue at that point without them stopping it and trying to get some of the water out of the mill. But that's a different story. But in the game against Sporting Kansas City, so it was a little bit of sleet, snow, rain was going on. It was really bad conditions. They got out to a 3-0 lead into the second half, and somehow they allowed Kansas City, which is not a good team, or to be confused with even a regular team or even a mediocre team. They are a bad team that just fired their coach, and they allowed Kansas City to come back and tie that game at 3. So again, we have a team that's sort of Jekyll and Hyde on how they play at home and how they play on the road. Because against Sporting KC, against Real Salt Lake, they fully dominated 90% of that game.
Yeah, no, it was you might almost say a thrashing. But they're 3 wins, 1 loss, and 2. I mean, their point total has them in the top 4 in the West, and they're very tough to break down. They play 5 at the back, so they've changed their shape. I'm going to dig out some things that Eric Ramsey told me in preseason, and you guys got to listen to that, because there's some really interesting stuff about the way they switch to a twin striker front with and their strikers have 4 goals each. So their strikers have 8 goals. So it's working, and there's not much secrecy to how they play. And he says right up front, they're playing counterattack football. That's it. Counterattack football. And we're going to see it in a minute. But before we get to maybe some of the Minnesota stuff, because the other thing is the long throw in, which I've always enjoyed throughout my coaching career. I've actually had some very good long throwers, and I'm mystified as to why it's not used more often on the professional ranks. But I wanted to, because we had a lot of debate on this game-winning goal, Atlanta against New York City last week, as to, and it's not necessarily important who's to blame. It's important to solve what happened on this play. And what happened is Latte Lath got behind Thiago Martins and scored a goal. So here's how Maddie and I described it on the New York City FC network. And then I would like to get your take and Ariel's take, how you guys talked about it.
Now there's a little miscommunication and a disastrous goal. Thiago Martins and Matt Freese. Martins was waiting for Freese to come out. He was trying to hold off the attacker. They're both in a bit of a argument as to how that one should have been played. It's a massive error by New York City FC.
I was just taking another look at my monitor, but I knew at the time the person at fault here is Thiago Martins. He cannot tell the goalkeeper what to do. The goalkeeper is the one who should be telling him, clear it. And if he doesn't hear anything, Thiago Martins, he has to deal with it.
Right.
It's a long punt upfield that he's let bounce. Now he's putting himself in an uncomfortable position where he's chasing back to his own goal, facing his own goal, doesn't quite know where Latte is. So all he has to do is just smash it anywhere. Hook it away from goal. I said in the first half, you can't score from Rose Ed.
Yes, I put this together for the coaching show I do too, because I think it's a coaching moment, man. First of all, don't let the ball bounce. That is the rule amongst rules on every level of football. If you can help it, don't let the ball bounce, because that's when all hell breaks loose, which I think we just witnessed one of those hellish moments there. And then and Matty played 650 games, mostly at central defense as a pro in England. So I go with him.
So I had a sort of different thought while I was describing the play. And I thought that, Matt Freese probably should have been more aggressive coming out and taking it. But I will defer to Mary Lawrence 100%. And to me, I'll take that as a learning moment for me. And so I will disregard what I said during the broadcast, and I'll probably readdress it on Sunday during the broadcast and talk about what Matty said and go with that. He's got 654 more games than I do. He played professionally. I never did. I am not going to argue with the man at all. He's 100% right.
And he marked Ruud van Nistelrooy in an FA Cup Finals, the captain of Millwall. Van Nistelrooy, a much better forward than I think he is a coach, really struggling at Leicester City, but that's a whole nother matter. But yeah, So, but that's, and that just kind of tapped off and capped off the proceedings where Atlanta came back from that 3-1 deficit. And
it's been, Glenn, before you go on, I was just like, because we got to talk about Thiago Martins, okay? And we spoke about it last week about how he's really basically going through preseason at the beginning of the season, because he was out all of preseason. I think he had, what was it, one game that he got a chance to play?
No, he didn't. No.
Not even a game, right? He
hurt himself. I'll give you the exact. He hurt himself in the third practice of preseason and didn't play a lick, train, compete, nothing for the rest of preseason. Like, he was on the side, but he wasn't training with contact with the team.
And so he's had a slightly rough start to the season. There's been no doubt. I mean, when he's on, he's one of the best defenders in MLS there, and there's a reason why he's got a DP contract. And but he's had a little bit of a rough start to the season, and not only the own goal that happened, what was it, last week, but also now this play where he should have taken more charge and gotten rid of the ball.
The own goal was against New England.
Because New England,
because
2 weeks ago, then
because City came back and then scored 2 goals to win it 2-1, which helps you forget it, or at least not feel so bad.
Right, and then last week, last week they had the 0-0 tie in Columbus, right? So it looked like everything was going well as far as defensively, that they were improving.
Yeah, but here's
all of a sudden, it went haywire.
Yeah, but I think that the last thing we should talk about here, he is the captain, and from our vantage point, and you were just a few feet to the right of us, so we were both watching the same thing. We weren't happy with how he reacted toward Matt Freese. And especially if you look back and calculate that maybe ultimately he was chiefly responsible for the goal, because all he had to do, as Matty said, is put it into Rose. We say Z, he says Z. but we know what that means. And that's what you do. That's another, like, the unwritten rule of a defender, or if you got an attacker bearing down on you, and you don't know, what might happen in front of you, you just get it out, especially that stage of the game, especially when they've tied it up and the momentum is like,
all theirs.
Yeah. So anyway, that's something to be at least considered. And this team is set up so that they talk about these things. So I'm sure it was discussed in some manner, but it needs to be. It needed. If I was,
for sure,
if I was coach of the team, that I would have those two players get together and sort it out a bit, because
and you still have to, and then you have to have the rest of the defense and everybody basically understand what their role is when that sort of play happens. Who's in charge? Who's not in charge? Who gets to do what? Yes, I probably would have liked to see Freeze be more aggressive, come on and grab the ball.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if he doesn't, then it's up to Thiago Martins to punt it someplace, either put it for a corner kick or put it out the side for a throw-in. And that's what should have happened.
Felipe Cardenas put out a post. I can't remember if it was X or Blue Sky. And he kind of more pinned the blame on Freeze, and he noted that Freeze had been hesitant to come off his line on multiple occasions in the game, which I have to go back and watch the full match to recognize that personally. But I responded to him with the same thing, that we felt differently about that particular moment. I mean, if he was slow coming off his line, that's sometimes you have that hesitation moment or moments, and so.
I'm very interested to see what Pascal says, basically not to assign blame, but more, what are you supposed to do in that situation? What are you looking for the team to do in that situation? And, what his instructions are if something like that happens again. So I'm interested.
Put the ball in row Z. That will we'll wait for his response, but it might not be those exact words, but it'll be similar. It'll be similar. So, and it kind of overshadowed Alonso Martinez drawing a penalty and then converting the penalty, his fourth goal of the year. Hannes Wolf taking advantage of a mistake at the back for Atlanta, and then slotting one home and continuing his run of really good form. So now you're up 3-1 early in the second half, and it's just it was a tough one for all of us.
It is. And for Hannes Wolf, by the way, that's not only the first time he scored 2 goals in an MLS game. That was the first time he scored 2 goals in any game. So, he had to be feeling good. He's got, 3 on the season now. He's contributing offensively. And so things are going well. And you just didn't expect that game to get away. As you had said, New York City had never blown a lead when they had scored 3 goals on the road. They'd never lost a game. And then, of all people, Keaton Parks with a bad clearance right to the back of the net. And then all of a sudden, everything just changed at that moment of the game. And the other, the goals were just horrific.
It really lends itself to the psychology of sport. And, you hear different percentages that coaches or people who are involved in any sport will say, but some say 80, some say 60, some say 75. No one says less than 50. And that is what percentage of psychology factors into the success of a moment or a team. And, I think we 100%, if I could use a percentage, I think 100% we saw that in effect at Mercedes-Benz, and a tired team. And that's what happens mentally if all of a sudden things aren't going well. Now the exhaustion sets in. It's a team with a lack of depth. Let's face it. I mean, if you got 2 goalkeepers on the bench and you don't have a full bench, depth was an issue in this game. So, we'll see how it goes at Yankee Stadium. Minnesota, let's talk about them, Roberto, because I think it's, we've watched them over the years. They celebrated their 100th win as an MLS franchise with this win over RSL 2-0 in this horrible weather. If you go back and watch some of that game, anybody listening or watching us, it's crazy. The rain is crazy. You just look at the coaches. Coaches are never wrapped up like that. And they lost their opener to LAFC, Minnesota, and then they haven't lost since. 3 wins and 2 draws. in their last 5. And it's not like they got smashed in that first game either. Now, beware the throw-in, Roberto. And I want to show this because I think it's this is a weapon of theirs. So they have 4 set-piece goals this year, Roberto, which leads MLS. No team has more than 4. 2 of those set-piece goals are off of throw-ins, including this one right here against CF Montreal. That was the second game of the season, and it was the game-winning goal. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put you back to 2015. You're going to remember this goal, Roberto. Matt Beasler to Iko Para. For Sporting KC at Yankee Stadium. And the reason I'm showing it will become obvious because, 70 yards wide. But anyway, run this, Shane. The throw-ins, please. So, Roberto, I think we can talk over this one, too. So this is
can.
So this is Michael Boxhall. But Eric Ramsey said he's got 5 guys that can launch throws. I mean, that's a luxury. And it's not the first ball. It's the second ball. And in this case, the second, third onside. And Kelvin Yeboah taps it in.
And unlike some of the other stadiums that have been narrow in the history of MLS, there's some room here to take throws, and Beasler whips it right at the top of the 6-yard box. There's the header and into the goal. To perfection, Iko Para does it again for Sporting Kansas City off the powerful throw from Matt Beasler.
How about the foreshadowing there?
How about that, Joe Tollison, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How about the foreshadowing by Joe Tollison?
That's fantastic. And
that's great.
And then a short clip of Peter Vermees, who was much happier back then, and after 17 years was mutually agreed to part ways a couple of days ago. But that's so the 2 things there. Minnesota's good at it, and Yankee Stadium makes it even a more
inviting,
delightful thing for Minnesota that they do. But I think on this coaching show I do on Sirius XM, I think when I have a coach on, I'm going to ask every one of them from now on, why do you not create a long thrower and utilize it in your because
can you create somebody like
that?
I mean, that's
it's a technique
that somebody has.
It's a technique. And there's a guy named Thomas Gronemark, because I've had him on the show too. He was hired by Jurgen Klopp, so this is pretty good. Jurgen Klopp hired him as a throwing coach. Now, this guy Gronemark still holds the record for longest throw. It's like a Guinness Book of World Records for longest throw. I don't know what kind of player he was, but he could throw the ball in. But he now has an online course, and he teaches technique. And he increased Andy Robertson and
Arnold Alexander. He increased the lengths of their throws, both of them. So they're playing fullback. So the length of their throws is very important because they're the ones who are, moving up the pitch and taking the throws. So that's one thing. But then all the different maneuverings, not just long throws. So he doesn't just focus on long throws. He just throws in how many chances can you create off of throw-ins. And I'll tell you what, if you listen to commentary over the last 10 years plus on the English side, the amount of times I get annoyed by throw-ins losing possession. I mean, it's incredible how often teams lose possession. It happens a lot. It does happen. I don't normally bark on that one, but I have noticed it. And in the game against Real Salt Lake, Minnesota had 12 throw-ins and Real Salt Lake had 6. So they get their opportunity. It's really interesting the way they.
But you're going to get a lot of throw-ins. You're going to get a lot of throw-ins in a game. I mean, there's throw-ins all over the place.
Of course there is. But the thing, I'm looking at the stats from the game, right? So Minnesota expected goals 2.4 versus 1.6. Total shots 15 apiece. Shots on target 7-4 for Minnesota, and big chances 7-3 for Minnesota. All right. Now, possession, 65% for Sporting Kansas City, for Real Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And they had 477 passes to 209.
That's why
it tells you
how
they want to play.
Yeah, well, you have to listen to Eric Ramsey talk about it. He knows they're going into games they're going to have 40% possession at Yankee Stadium, somewhere between 35 and 40 on Sunday. That's a guarantee. Okay.
Right.
So
Unless
you know what you're dealing with. They're set pieces, because the other two set piece goals were distance set pieces, where again the ball, not the first ball but the second ball, and I would imagine that New York City's been training on how to defend this, because the other thing about throw-ins, Roberto, I've always noticed is they come in at a different trajectory, so they're a little bit more difficult to deal with, and it's different distances too. You're never quite sure where it's going to go. But we used to we'd post up one player, post up another player, maybe 5 yards behind that player, and whichever target it went to, then it was a flick header on, and have fun in front of goal.
I'm concerned for New York City for that. I'm also concerned for New York City because if what they're trying to do, obviously, is to try to attract New York City as much as possible, win the ball, and then counter, right? So that means that New York City, if they're in possession, they're going to be playing a very, very high line. And they're very good at going route one. So how do you counter that as a coach? Aside from
defense, they call
playing back and not playing and not playing forward as much.
Well, the coaching jargon on that, and it's what you do. It's called rest defense. Like you're prepared defensively while you're in possession. So you have to really be aware. Shane played the second goal by Tani Aluashei. He scored a brace in this RSL game, but the second goal will fall right into what Roberto's talking about here. And we could talk through it, Roberto. So here's a long ball out of the back. Boom. Into that space. Now it's two birds
of the field.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I doubt that it'll be that wide open. Well, first of all, it's at Yankee Stadium. But secondly, New York City doesn't generally leave just two players back against two strikers. But what you see there, Roberto, here's another look at it. So he's onside because of the halfway line. And this is the struggle with two strikers is sometimes your center backs get paired up 2v2. Sometimes they're playing 2v2. So who's covering? So you have to have the holding midfielder in front of them.
But Brian,
go ahead.
Brian Vera, number 4 there. I mean, his pace coming back left a lot to be desired. I mean, he's basically jogging back on the play when you have to sprint all out and give it your all. And if you're toast after that, then, fake an injury or something, stay on the ground or get replaced.
No,
do something. But you've got to run back harder than that, which he didn't do.
Let me interrupt, because I want you to go back and watch the previous 10 minutes. And there's some close-ups of him. He is so uncomfortable in the weather. He's got these gloves on and everything's so, and he's looking, he's like that, he's got his shoulders up,
like this. Yeah, like that. I know the feeling.
And he's playing like this. So I just don't think he had it in him in that game. I don't know where's Vera from? Is he Costa Rica?
Colombia.
Oh, Colombia.
He's from Colombia.
All right.
He's 26 years old. And where did he play? He came from America de Cali. Played in Italy at Lecce and Cosenza, and started with a team called Leones in Colombia. Played twice for the Colombian national team back in 2023.
All right.
I'm sure he's seen bad weather before. Matty Lawrence always tells us, right? Every time I speak to him about, like, if it's raining, he used to say that he loved it. He loved playing in rain like that.
Well, we've got 2 of the 6 players who had multi-goal games last weekend at Yankee Stadium, Aluashei and Hannes Wolf. So they'll be and then Aluashei and Carlos Harvey. Harvey is part of the Minnesota team. He can play in the back or in the midfield. Came on as a reserve against RSL. Well, Harvey started both games for Panama, including the first one against the U.S. back at the Nations League stuff. And Aluashei scored against the U.S. for Canada in that third place game. So they had some nice moments themselves against the U.S. We'll talk a little national team stuff. We got Roberto was out. There's a new pro team in town, and Roberto's going to talk a little bit about that when we get to kicking it around. the Yankees and Diamondbacks at Yankee Stadium. They're playing. Their first pitch is 7:05. We are live. You might be watching this on tape or on delay, or what do we call it? I don't know what we call it.
It's
anyway,
on tape,
but we're
on demand.
For those
on
watching
demand,
now,
Glenn.
it is first pitch is over a half hour away. The game won't end till maybe at like 10, and then
You hope it doesn't rain.
Between then and Sunday at 3, we need a soccer pitch looking good. So the first big challenge for the sod layers over the
So what's
infield.
today? Thursday, Friday. Now I know why the game is on Sunday. Now I didn't realize the Yankees were playing. Now we know why the game's on Sunday, because they would never have had it ready for Saturday. They need like close to 72 hours to be able to put that together.
And Sunday soccer is pretty cool, Roberto. So at 3 o'clock.
I like it. 3 o'clock. I love it.
Well, I mean, just in MLS, Sunday soccer. So they got 3 o'clock, New York City, Minnesota. At 5, it's the San Jose Earthquakes against DC United, and I want to talk about that in a moment. And then Miami meets winless Toronto, and that one's in Fort Lauderdale at 7. So that's the Sunday night soccer. So MLS did a really cool thing, I think. And as well, we heard Bruce when I spoke to him in preseason, what he thinks about MLS. But and they're he just in his own way, because he had a little issue with them, but MLS is doing a cool thing. The very first game ever played in MLS was April the 6th, 1996, and it was the San Jose Earthquakes against DC United.
San Jose clash.
Okay. It was the San Jose against DC United. So what they're doing is they're playing San Jose against DC United, and the fact that Bruce Arena was involved in that game as the head coach of DC United. Now he's involved as the coach for San Jose, and they're inviting a bunch of players that played in that first game back. Winalda, who scored the first goal in MLS, he's going to be there. John Doyle, Eddie Lewis, Harks, Agus, and Echeverry have, I guess, all accepted invitations.
That's wonderful. I remember watching that game, and that place, Spartan Stadium, being sold out to the rafters, over 27,000 people. And it was a big event. It was a really, really big deal. And thankfully, there was a goal. Eric Winalda scored it. And he will always be remembered for scoring the first goal ever.
Yeah.
And, the Clash wasn't a bad name, mind you. But, the Earthquakes is better. I mean, they were one of the first teams that went back to, let's start remembering some of our MLS roots, not MLS, NASL roots. So then them, and then the Sounders, the Timbers, and the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Okay, cool. Mentioned Miami. They lost to LAFC last night. Nathan Ordaz, he played against New York City in that game at LAFC week 2. Started at right wing, played about an hour. You could see stuff going on there. He was striker last night. He scored the goal, an El Salvadorian, and he looked good, man. He was dangerous, and he's playing the game ahead of Olivier Giroud, so a 21-year-old. Who, no one knows is playing instead of Giroud, which, there's at least a little.
He's been playing well. And by the way, he should have. He got into an altercation in the 26th minute of that game where I was watching the game, and Stu Holden said that he should have been red carded for that. And at the end of the day, the referee, who I believe, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was O'Shane Nason from Jamaica.
Yeah.
Went to VAR, looked at the play, and decided that he was only going to get a yellow. So they got very, very lucky, LAFC, that he didn't get a red card. And then he starts the second half.
Favorite name and favorite referee. And the guy, the Chilean, I wish I could remember. He's a good player, man. The back that he had a confrontation with, well, not confrontation. It was just, it looked like an elbow to the kind of under the face, part of the face was struck.
Are you talking about Maximilio Falcon? You're talking about
Maxi Falcon. Yeah, he's the one that he's
just
the one that got
one small correction. Just look further west. He's Uruguayan.
Well, I thought for sure he was Chile.
Yeah, not according to FOTMob.
Huh. I'm looking that up right now. But
He
we really
played a
can't-
lot in Chile. He played in
Oh,
Colossal.
that's what it is. He came from Coca-Cola. Yeah. That's my fault. Yeah, he came from a Chilean team, but he's Uruguayan. Thank you for the
Because
correction.
before that, he played in the second division in Uruguay with a team named Rentistas.
Okay, good. Well, he's a good. He's one of the reasons that I think Miami's going to continue to be the top team in MLS. We'll see how they do.
And I love him because he's easy to identify.
Oh, that's good too.
He's got that huge head of hair. By the way, for everybody, if you I see we've got some comments. We want lots more. So chime in. Let us know what you think on a variety of subjects.
Well, one of them is we're frustrated by the lack of signings in this window. What a disappointment. So, so David Lee put out a Q&A, and they had supporters write in questions, and certainly one of the questions was about the signings, or did he anticipate anything? And nothing specific. David really didn't say anything specific in the nature of signings. It was it was a sort of typical response. Yet, you can't identify your targets. You're not going to do that. No one does that, by the way. No one identifies who they're going after. It just doesn't happen. So April 23rd is the cutoff date for this transfer loop, and we'll see if something happens. But
we've been told that I guess the idea was to bring in 2 players in this transfer window and 2 more, probably more significant players in the summer transfer window. And so, but right now and last week, Pascal Janssen addressed it, and he basically said, this is my team. The team we have, the players we have here is my team. And he's not expecting anybody, he's not expecting anything, and this is his team, and he's good with it. So that's what he said. But I think that he was being a very good company man.
Well, and as you should, because you're also involved, he's also involved in identifying players too. Things are put in front of him. So it's a
situation, Glenn, where, their hands, are a little bit tied in a way, because it's not just New York City. They're tied into a much bigger soccer organization, and there's a lot of influence that comes from the top that they may not be able to do anything about.
No, because what happens is, and I know this because I hear this kind of stuff, is that other teams are signing this player, that player, the midfielder from here, and most of the time when we see these names come across the desk, we don't know who they are, really. We don't know what kind of player they are. Then we go and Google them and look at their highlights, and it's I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Why, if they're doing something, why can't we do something? If Toronto's trading for an international roster spot and then they add some dude from wherever, then why aren't we doing it as the supporters, meaning New York City FC? So, and what you just said is, is a certainly more than a parcel of it, being kind of tied down a little bit as to not being able to do all the different moves that maybe you would like to do. It's a philosophy. Clubs have a philosophy, and groups have a philosophy. The philosophy of this group is called City Football Group, and there's 13 satellite franchises.
And what we have a saying in Spanish, we have a saying, donde manda capitán, no manda marinero, where the captain gives orders, the soldier just listens.
Okay. All right, let's leave that. U.S. Open Cup, Sasha Kleshin got sent off while he was on the bench for Des Moines. So he played like, I don't know, a little over an hour. So he must have been just pissed at the referee. So he got to the bench and started squawking, and he got sent off. And Des Moines lost to Union Omaha, which I was very happy about because I have a great friend who coaches Union Omaha, Dominic Cassiato, who used to coach the Brooklyn Italians. And so Union Omaha wins it 2-1.
Yeah, there were 2 red cards. Yeah, I guess that was one of them. Trying to see what some of the other scores. 2 red cards in El Paso Locomotive beating Ventura County 3-0 on the road. The Tacoma Defiance beat Spokane Velocity FC 2-1.
I'm gonna guess nobody cares about these games. But some might care.
Looking. Well,
All right.
we got. How about Westchester SC beating the New York Pansy Freedoms? How about that?
That's one I have down, 3-2. The Pancyprians are 9-time champions of the Cosmopolitan League. The most recent was 2019. They are a pretty famous club in the area. Westchester. The draw was today for the third round, Roberto, and Westchester will play at Detroit City in the third round. That's going to be a tough one for them. Westchester, it's their rookie season in USL League One, and they're doing really well. And on Monday, Roberto, I'm interviewing their coach.
Oh, that's very cool. I just saw that Carolina Core, who I met the owner earlier this year, they wound up losing in extra time to the Charlotte Independence 2-1. So I'm sorry to see that happen. And your favorite team, El Farolito SC, beat Monterey Bay FC 2-1.
I hope they win the cup. You know, it's a wonderful thing. You know, they're owned by a Mexican restaurant, and you know, what more can you say, right?
Awesome.
I mean, what's better than that?
Free tacos.
You know where? That's right.
What's better than that?
Hey, on our broadcast Saturday, it's going to be free Wendy's. What do they call them? I don't have it in front of me. Like the Big Dave or the Big Steve. What do they call it?
I have it here. Hold on.
Yeah, get it. So we could give it a little pre-broadcast plug.
So if they win,
then
New York City has to win. Yeah, New York City has to win. So if they don't win, you get nothing.
But what do you get?
Like I'm trying. I think it's called Dave's Big Single or something like that.
Maybe I just did this. So let's see.
There it is. Dave's Single, a free Dave Single.
A free Dave Single with a New York City.
So you have 24 hours after the game. So until Monday at 3:00 to go in and ask for your Dave's free single, and we'll be advertising that during our broadcast on Sunday.
Yabba dabba do. Before we go to kicking it around, is there anything else? What do you think of this? I think this is great. So Club Lyon got booted out of the FIFA Club World Cup because you can't be owned by two of the same owners who own Pachuca and Lyon. So boom, that's the rule apparently, and they appealed it and they lost the appeal. So now I don't think it's official yet. LAFC versus Club America in a one-game playoff to get a spot. I think that's pretty cool. It's another game, but that sounds fun. What do you think?
So what happened? I mean, I have a problem with what they did. And the reason I say that, what happens if Manchester City qualifies and New York City FC qualify, and they're both owned by the same conglomerate? Does New York City or Manchester City get kicked out?
Probably. But it's never happened. So you can't. I mean, it's a hypothetical. What I don't know. We don't know.
I mean, now they've set the precedent.
Yeah. No, they have. And I don't know. I don't keep track.
I mean, and for the City Football Group, it could be an issue because they've got teams everywhere.
I think wasn't it an issue in, oh gosh, was it last year in another event? I think this pertains to multiple events. It's not just the Club World Cup. I remember reading a story.
Yeah, I would presume that it involves any official, championship of some sort.
Right. Yeah,
championship.
I'm not remembering it well. So on that note, let's kick it around.
So what is it? Bolivar and what's the team in Uruguay? That's owned by City Football Group. Are they not allowed to play Libertadores
Montevideo
at the same time? Torque, right. Are they not allowed to play Libertadores at the same time?
I don't know. Let's kick it around, I said. The American Soccer Club. What American Soccer Club? No. That's the name of the team. The American Soccer Club. They're going to play on Long Island, I think. And Roberto,
yes, they're going to start off at Hofstra. Officially, the team is American Soccer Club New York. ASC New York.
Cool.
That's the official name of the team. And they were presented today. I went to their press conference out out on Long Island, and they had a few players. Jim Kilmaid was there as well. He's there on the right on that picture. And I got a chance to speak to him about what
who
the
is
team.
he? Tell
Well,
us
he's
who
a
he
general
is.
man. Well, aside from being a general managing partner of BQE Soccer Partners, he's also general manager of the team.
Okay.
So he's going. So I asked him to explain, how this all came about and how they're going to play and the whole thing. And it's actually pretty cool. So here's his answer.
Yeah, well, we're 31 days out now to opening day at Hofstra University's Captain's Field, a top soccer-specific venue in the Long Island Metro New York area, in my opinion. We'll be playing Osner FC at 7 o'clock on that Sunday night at Hofstra. Our club was consummated pre-COVID, was put off the launch of this post-COVID, and here we are today in 2025. Our goal is to build a team that is built exclusively of local Long Island, New York Metro players that have developed in this market, and that we can help launch them not only into higher careers, but into Europe.
So, that's a great thing. They have a nice vision over what they want to do. I just want to give you a little information on the team. So he mentioned when the season starts, which is in May, they play a 10-game season, 5 home, 5 away. Of the teams that you might know, the only one that I really knew was Hartford Athletic. So they will play them home and away at some point. Tickets are pretty cheap. I believe they start at $14. Season tickets, $70 for the whole season. They're going to be playing at Hofstra. There will be no football lines on the field. So we wish them the best of luck in the NPSL.
NPSL. Yeah, so they play 10 games. Now, generally speaking, like, for instance, FC Motown is an NPSL team, I believe. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Well, El Farolito is an NPSL. They're an NPSL team. So they're, they're teams that maybe train twice a week. I don't know how serious they're taking. He's talking about developing players and selling them to Europe. That's a bold statement.
Yes, it is.
But and obviously it's going to take some time for development, finding the players, maybe, connecting yourself with a youth club or a youth academy, where maybe
right. Or start their own, which is the key part.
Yeah.
Look, if you can develop a really, really strong academy, you can make money hand over fist if you're able to develop a couple of players. Part of the best part of New York City's income has been selling players abroad. Yeah,
so good. That's great. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, because now we've got Brooklyn USL Championship coming next year. We've got Westchester USL League One. We've got New York City FC. I don't want to leave anybody out of the pro ranks. And those are men, and then we got the women are in Brooklyn, and I'm not including New Jersey in this list, so you'll be proud of me. I'm not going to Jersey we're talking New York teams, man.
What about the Rough Riders? Are they still around?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to even start saying yes, they're still around. No, they're not. I believe
I don't know either.
I believe they're around
in the comments knows. Let us know.
Well, yeah, and I believe they're around as a youth club, but
okay.
And they might play. Maybe they play Cosmopolitan League. I don't know, man. I don't know. Couple other things. Well, we mentioned USL. So recently, USL announced that they are submitting for D1 status, which everything you hear, it seems like that's going to happen. So they'll be on the same tier level as Major League Soccer. There's certain things they have to do in accordance with the bylaws to do that. But the more exciting thing, I guess, Roberto, or certainly intrigue, is that apparently, I don't know if we've seen an official announcement, but it seems pretty official. The owners have agreed to Pro Rel. The USL owners, so we're talking USL 2, 1 championship, have agreed to Pro Rel. How about that?
And that's pretty good. And for them, it's going to work. I've always stated this. All these arguments I've had with the Pro Rel pros on social media. And I've always said MLS started in a certain way where everybody invested a lot of money per franchise, and it's not fair to them that somebody who invested $5 million in a franchise all of a sudden gets elevated to MLS, to MLS. And I always understood why it's a closed league, and I supported the fact that it was a closed league. Now, if USL, and I've always said to them, I said, you don't like it? Fine, compete. Go form your own first division league and then do first division, second division, third division, and do all you want and do that. And they always said, no, we can't. It's impossible. There's not. All of a sudden, it's not impossible. And USL has been able to do it. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how they develop this because they're not under the constraints, right, that MLS has put on itself. So they may decide, screw it, we're not going to do a salary cap, and we're going to have $100 million payroll because we can freaking afford it. If they can, I don't know.
Find the billionaires, man. Find the billionaires. They're out there.
And then all of a sudden, MLS is going to have to step up their game because instead of guys going and playing in MLS, good talent from Europe is going to say, well, this team wants to pay me $20 million while the MLS team only wants to pay me $8 million. So
they should call it
$20 million team.
They should call it the U.S. Football League.
Oh, stop.
Well, that's what happened there.
Anyway.
Well, they took players. I mean, Herschel Walker, who's the Bills quarterback, they got players because they paid him more money.
Yeah.
And
then you know how that league died, right?
Oh, yeah. They died much in the way the stock market plummeted today. Oh, my God.
Same guy.
Same guy.
He decided, and he forced everybody to compete with the NFL.
But it is.
The
AFL. The AFL was more successful in competing, obviously.
And they merged with the NFL.
Yeah, and then
WHA with the NHL and ABA with the NBA. And I've said this all along. Follow that road. Follow that model.
Serginho Dest played 77 minutes at a PSV loss to Ajax. Just a little national team stuff here. He replaced Richie Ledesma, the former New York City midfielder, who's now a fullback at PSV. And then there's Matt Turner. So listen, Crystal Palace beat Fulham in the FA Cup last weekend, right? 3-0. Matt Turner had played in the first 3 FA Cup games for Palace. Dean Henderson got to start in this one. Turner's not even playing in the important FA Cup games to get the experience. So I think that's of note.
It is, and it's good news for Zach Steffen.
Now, not that my voice or anything I do helps with coverage of certain things or the idea of identifying something. But if you're going to get my attention, do what the Mexican national team did. They have branded a red wine. It's like the official red wine. So I've become, I'm leaning in that direction. I'll always be U.S. strong, but they've at least they've gotten my attention, Roberto, and they're going to get greater media coverage now because they've got this commemorative red wine. I don't know I forget what the Casillero del Diablo. How's that pronunciation? Any good? Casillero?
Casillero del Diablo. I like that wine. I've had it before. They have a very nice Rioja.
So we have to get it when we're out next. If they have it, we got to find a spot with that.
And our favorite place, Fornos, they've got it.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I don't know when we visit out there. Maybe we'll go to a Gotham game or something like that. I want to go. I haven't been to Gotham I didn't go to Gotham last year, and I feel really bad.
Well, Gotham did something today. It's a great move, but unprecedented in I don't know any women's soccer coach that got a contract like this. They extended the contract of Juan Carlos Amorós, who led them to the NWSL championship 2 years ago. And he's done such a good job. And they extended him 5 years. 5 years. I mean, it was crazy. So that happened today. And also what happened today is
he must have had another offer someplace, or at least at least his manager probably said, "Oh, we got this great offer someplace." And
he they know. Yael Averbuch said today in a presser that he's been pursued over the last couple of years anyway.
As he should be.
So they do want to. And she told a story about she said it's crazy the things that she never thought about that he does. And then the one story she told is the first time he came up and asked her, hey, can we have the training field watered at this time? And then we're going to train at this time. And she was like, what do you mean? He goes, no, I want the field watered exactly at the time it'll be watered at the game field on game day. And then we're going to replicate halftime watering and then continue to train. And she was like, that kind of thing. So he's got all those kinds of things going where he really takes care of every little thing. It was pretty interesting.
Good. Ariel wrote us, actually.
All right.
And he clarified that Bolivar, although, it's affiliated with CFG, is owned by Claure. And so I guess officially their ownerships are different. So Montevideo, Torque, could face Bolivar in Libertadores or Sudamericana.
Okay.
Thank you, Ariel.
Thank you, Ariel. Ariel is if there's a soothsayer in our chat, it is Ariel Hudas.
And it's like information from everywhere.
People that are watching and listening, you would love to see some of this. Of course, 92.5% of it we would never be able to share with you. But never be able to share with you, especially when Matty Lawrence gets on there.
Matty's very funny.
He's funny.
Love him to death.
The other women's soccer story, FIFA announced, Mr. Prez announced this morning that there's only one bidder for 2031 World Cup, and it's the U.S. So we are hosting in 2026 on the men, and now 5 years later we'll be hosting.
And it's not shared, right? Because they had originally said that it was going to be shared with Mexico. But I have a feeling that present political tensions between Trump and Presidenta Sheinbaum maybe put a monkey wrench into all of that.
Yeah, because I think Canada and Mexico were
no, not Canada, because Canada had just hosted in 2015. So it was just Mexico, U.S. We're going to co-host.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I guess we're not anymore. The U.S. came out.
And now it's no co anymore.
And, of course, the story of the week in sports, the torpedo bats. In Major League Baseball. You haven't heard about this?
Yes, I have.
So the Yankees hit 9 home runs in their first 2 games. And all of a sudden we were looking at these bats and now they're describing their torpedo bats. And what we've learned is that they are within this is what's great about it, is that there's a mathematician who is also a baseball guy who has done the analytics so on each player to say where the thickest part of the bat will provide them the most productivity. Now, for most of them, it's going to be in the in that top area, which you'll see. But it also turns out there's 11 other players, other than the Yankee players, there's 11 other players in the league, including Francisco Lindor of the Mets, who use the torpedo bat. So there you go.
Okay, so I want to give you some knowledge, all right? Okay, so Bartolo Colon wrote 3 days ago.
I saw this.
Yeah, I wonder how many home runs I would have hit with a torpedo bat. And I thank my buddy Laura Albanese, who's a great writer for Newsday. Please follow her. And she's hysterical. She's so funny. I love her to death. And she has some great stuff on food, too. And then she posted from last night that the Yankees whiffed 16 times in a loss to the Diamondbacks. They're up to 30 Ks in 2 games with the torpedo bat. So they're torpedoing their opportunities to hit home runs. It's all or nothing.
It's a fun story, but it's baseball, not at its worst, but I've watched a couple of games so far, and I continue to be dismayed when they don't even think about bunting a guy over to get him into scoring position anymore. It just doesn't happen.
Small ball? Who plays small ball?
Yeah, and I miss that. I miss that too. But the games are shorter, And that'll give the grounds crew more time to set up the soccer field, since the games won't be like 3.5 hours when the Yankees play tonight. They're tipping off. They are first pitch in 4 minutes. Well, we got tip off. We've got dropping the puck. What do they say in hockey? Face off. No, what's it?
Face off.
No,
and also dropping the puck. Face
like
off.
We call it first kick. We call it first pitch. What do they call it? Drop
Just
the puck.
Face off. Yeah, drop the puck. Start the game.
The first puck drops.
Yeah.
Like, is that what they said?
No, but they're not the first puck. It's just like they're ready for the face off.
Yeah, but every sport has like a phrase for the first thing.
Don't know if hockey has one. I don't think they do. There's nothing that stands out.
All right.
But by the way, Sam Rosen's retiring this year. I can't tell you how much I'm going to miss him. And I love what the NHL has done. Every city that he's visited, they've honored him on screen during the game and given him some sort of a present, either a shirt or wine. I guess he really likes his wine, because everywhere they've been giving him bottles of wine. Sam Rosen is one of the nicest guys, one of the best announcers. And what some people may not remember, he was also one of the announcers for the Cosmos back in the day. And he also did PA over at Giant Stadium for the Cosmos for a time. So he's a soccer guy. And This is his last season. And his signature call, now you want a signature call in hockey? He's got one. It's a power play goal.
Yeah. It gives you chills because of all the great games he's called. Yeah, if you're a New York sports fan, him, Mike Breen, Marv Albert. I mean, those guys will live forever in our hearts, really, because, especially those days when all we could do is listen to the radio for the home games. So, that's those guys really brought it home for us, No,
100%. I've never really a baseball fan, but I know that for a lot of people, John Sterling, Steve Cohen for the Mets has been great. Howie Rose, who has one of the great Ranger calls of all time in 1994 with Mato. He was on the radio for the Rangers back then.
Howie Rose is doing the radio for the Mets now. And John Sterling is gone. Dave Sims, remember old Dave Sims? He's doing the Yankee games on the radio now. So he's. And
I knew Dave when he was a writer for the Daily News before he went out to Seattle and was a mainstay as a play-by-play guy for the Seattle Mariners until he came this year to the Yankees to be with Susan Waldman.
Okay, it's almost like you had that scripted, but
it's the biz. We love the biz.
All right. Well, our announcing will be Sunday. And we're on. It's an afternoon game, folks, so don't be fooled. 2:45 is the pregame show Eastern time for Roberto and myself on the Spanish and English side, and then Matty Lawrence and I at 2:15 p.m. the NYCFC pregame live, the live stream where we have a lot of fun, and we can see the condition of the field. So your first look at the condition of the field is going to be at 2:15 if you do NYCFC pregame live. I'm just telling you. Just to see how it all looks. All right.
And Roberto, it's supposed to rain tomorrow, too. So hopefully the rain stays away enough until.
Well, maybe that'll help the sod, lay down more quickly. Who knows? It's got to be heavy. The weight of the sod is what makes it take. It's the weight of it. So maybe the rain helps. What do we know?
They have hoses. They could water it.
Yeah, but it'd have to be timed just right. Let's get Juan Carlos Amoroso in on this. All right, Roberto.
Vieira.
Thanks, everyone, for watching, listening, whatever you're doing. And we look forward to talking to you again on Sunday. And for Roberto, I'm Glenn, NYCFC Views Live.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.